Hi, my name is Chuck Clark. I do a YouTube channel called Trees of Conflict, patterned after the wars, Christian wars of the 80s. I believe we are warring people, and we like to fight. It's just plain and simple, I want to try and do a uplifting YouTube. A lot of times I'll pick different topics, that kind of thing. I believe I have about 60 or so YouTubes that most of them are a little longer. I'm trying to get into shorter ones. The attention span, I find myself that, I don't really want to sit and listen to hour-long videos. I'll find myself skipping through and trying to look for the meat out of them. And today I want to focus a little on where we're at now, and the Word of God, the answer to our dilemma, if you will. The world is in a critical state, and it used to be in the 90s we were looking for things that were still pure and natural, and we were looking at the Northwest Territories kind of thing, and the oceans there. Some of the salmon and stuff were considered still really healthy. Then we had the Exxon Valdez happen, and then we had fisheries, and finding out that they were doing huge salmon fisheries, and the byproduct of these things were polluting the environment around them. So trying to be somewhat upbeat, after COVID, everything seems to have gone down. We're still in this cycle that everything shut down, shut the world down, basically, just for a couple of weeks to get rid of the curve, to try and straighten things out. Just a couple of weeks, and 2 years later, we're still in it, and, dreadful stuff, and, it's still going on, basically, there's a lot of theories on where we are, and I was reading Daniel 3 to 12 yesterday, and sometimes I have more questions than I used to have before, especially like Daniel 11. It's just, wow, what's going on? But in 12, it talks about, they that are wise and help many to righteousness, they will shine like the stars in the firmament. And, a lot of people are looking for an easy salvation, if you will, the rapture ready. I don't want to argue with any of those things. The history of the Bible and things that have happened before, Hebrews 11, the faith of our brothers and sisters, and it says that they, without us, will all be included, kind of thing, and that there's going to be a shaking going on, and one more shaking. Once more, he says, I'm going to shake not earth only, but heaven and earth. So I believe we're in that shaking. I find it really difficult myself to get to the Word of God and find the energy and strength that I get from it. I don't know why that is. Where two or more are gathered, there is God in between. I find it's getting harder to find two that will agree. We go to churches, and I heard a woman say one time that she found churches were cults of one man. And I was like, oh, wow. In AA, Bill Wilson said that the brotherhood of man was just a grim jest, and that was back in the 30s. But the Word of God is still flowing. God talks about the latter rain. And that he says in Jesus' time, he says, the fields are white unto harvest. Pray ye that God sends laborers into the harvest. And we can pray that. That's a good prayer. We were praying in the 80s for revival. And a lot of those prayers, I think, are being answered. I believe we're probably in the latter rain. People are waking up that there really is nothing else, but the Word of God, and looking for that. People are flocking into churches, and I heard of baptism that, I think it was in Florida or somewhere, that thousands went into the sea to be baptized. Reminds me of what happened in the 60s with the Jesus movement, where thousands went in and were baptized. And we're praying for those kind of things. But we each individually need to eat from the Word of God and let it have its way in us. The Word of God is quick, meaning alive and powerful, sharper than any two-edged sword. And it is a discerner of the thoughts and the intents of the heart, the Word of God itself. I recommend the King James. It's the most accurate. I don't want to get into any controversy. There's tremendous controversy over these things. And people want to fight, especially in the flesh, and arguing who can yell the loudest, But I say just read the Word of God and let it, look at preachers and different things, TV preachers. They're all using the Word of God, and we can be fed. I think it was Elijah was fed by the ravens, and they brought him his meat and bread daily. And it's a daily battle. And we need pure water, which is the Word of God, and daily, and praying for one another, and trying to find somebody else. It says in 2 Thessalonians 3:2, I believe, save us from unreasonable people. And people don't reason anymore. They've been taught. The teachers got away and teaching us, not all of them, not all of any, but in general. My kids can't hear some of the preachers from the 80s, because the minute they say something like, that's stupid, they automatically shut off. They can't hear it anymore. They cannot hear. It says in the latter times that men will not be able to endure sound doctrine. 2 Timothy 2 talks about that we need to be workmen, and that we would be approved of God, not of others, not of each other, but approved of God. And the power of God is what we're looking for. There's a power in the Word of God that we can rely on. The program of Alcoholics Anonymous was born from that. A higher power, because it's only in us that the Word of God can be found. It's already in us. The Word of God is already in our mouths and in our heart. We just have to fan it and to read it and to eat it and to reason together. And I'm going to end it now because I'm at about 8 minutes. So until we meet again, may God bless you in these times. Read the Word of God and ask God, and He will answer. And I'll end with that. God bless you until then.